let's just rename some of these nodes before we continue. So here we are setting the velocity. Here, move down. Here, deleting geometry. Geo, scatter. Well, we're just scattering points, nothing extra there, so that's fine. Okay, so now the idea, what I want to do basically is have a get a cone shape, right? So like a triangle firing in the direction of the point. Okay, so we need to use that. Well, we don't need to use the velocity actually, but we're going to use a trail to make a line, which will give us a line in the direction of the point traveling, and then model it into kind of a triangle or a cone shape, right? So we start with a trail, and just with that one set by default, we get 2 points. Okay, and I'm going to leave it at default like this. I'm going to drop an add, tab, to give us an actual polygon between the two. So we go into polygons, group by attributes, and then ID, and that will connect the two together, right? Because they have an ID which is set in the pop sim here. We've got this turned on, so each particle will have an ID, and it doesn't matter if they're born or die, their ID stays the same always. That's very useful. Now I'm going to resample this. I'm just going to go back a few so they'll be longer at the start. There we go. And let's drop this down to pointer 1. I'm also going to turn on this curve U attribute here. Okay, so that will generate a value between 0 and 1 along the points of each polygon, right? So from here to here or here to here, I can't remember which way around. It'll be from 0 to 1. Maybe we can visualize it. Let's try that. Curve view, where are you? If we click on it, let's see. Now it's set by color. If we set like a tag, no, a marker. There we go. So I've got this set to marker, text, and point, and you can see it goes from 0 up here and then goes up. We got 0, 0.0, 0.1. It goes up all the way to 0.9 and 1 at the end there. There we go. So let's turn that off and drop another angle. Let's put add curve view. Okay, and then in this wrangle, we want to use that curve view attribute to create a ramp for the P scale, right? So we're going to make a some geometry around this. So I'll do that now just to show you. Polywire. Okay, you can see that gives us geometry around that, but I want to set a P-scale attribute to set the size of this wire using that curve view attribute. So we're going to say f at P-scale is, and then we're going to make a ramp, so channel ramp. I'll give this a name, which will be P-scale. Okay. Oh, and then the attribute will be that curve view that we just made at curve u. There we go, and it should just be that. Let's turn off this point visualizer. Click on this, and then we'll get a ramp there. Let's actually set, so the wire radius here is what's controlling that. So if we set that to the P-scale attribute, that will pick that up automatically, and there we go. Okay, so now I can use this ramp to drive the size of these triangles, okay, which all go in point in the direction of their velocity. Okay, so I'm just going to have this pretty simple. So I'm just going to delete this, and I'm going to set this to put this at the end and set it to 0.1. I think something like that. So it's quite sharp. Again, you can play around with this and get them more. Maybe you can do that, try and get something curved or I don't know, you know, start kind of get a bit more of a curve in there. So that's good. Let's just double check that we still have the velocity there. Let's see. Yeah, we still got the velocity going in the right direction, so that's great. So now pyro source. So from here will be pretty similar to what we've done before. Let's set this. So we want to volume scatter. I'm going to set this to 0.6, something like that, maybe a bit more, 0.5. And we need velocity, density, temperature, and flame as well for the fire, right? Let's see, we don't have velocity there. Let's make another 2. So this one will be velocity, and this custom one will be flame. Or, well, actually in the previous lesson, I think we called it burn beforehand, but it's the same thing. It's going to be called flame once we're inside DOPS. So, you know, we'll just leave it as flame. It doesn't matter really. I'm not sure why by default in, you know, with the, if you set up pyro with the shelf tools, or is it here? It sets it up with burn beforehand. Okay, so let's add some noise to this. Let me just make this a bit smaller so we can see what's going on. There we go. Add some noise. Before I set that, let's set the rasterize. Volume rasterize attributes. Okay, and then we'll just do I'll just do the density for the moment. Oh, why is that not density? I think we should get something straight. Yeah. So let's set this to the same as this for now, 0.03. There we go. Okay, and let's take a look at this noise. So we're going to add noise to the, well, first of all, change this to multiplicative. I'm just going to visualize this for now, actually. And we want to work on the density, temperature, and the flame. And, you know, you can obviously go ahead and set 3 of these separately. You can just chain them one under the other, one for density, one for temperature, one for flame if you want to have different values. But in my mind, it makes more sense that the more density there is, the more temperature and the more flame you'll have. So, you know, they kind of go together in my mind. But you can play around with having, you know, different scales of noises or different roughnesses and stuff like that for each one. But I'm not going to do that in this case. So yeah, I pretty much always like to have this kind of thing animated. I'll center the noise, so it'll be from 0.5 to, sorry, -5 to 0.5. Roughly, yeah, it should be something like that there. What else do we want to do? So the pulse duration is the speed of how of the animation. So if we give it a low value, it'll be much faster. Right, the element size, maybe we'll try to take a look at this now so we can get a sense of the element size. Let's go down to 0.1. There we go, something a bit better like that. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Oh, and then just because for the trail, for these kind of trails, I don't want to have any values of absolute 0 there, right? So at the moment, not absolute 0, but, you know, 0 or minus values. We've got some minus values there, which I don't want. Okay, so I'm going to set the minimum to be 0.1. So we've got at least 0.1 everywhere. Okay, so it's a bit more subtle now, you know, because I want to kind of try to preserve the shape as much as I can. So, you know, it will give us a nice effect. Great, so I think that's everything. Oh, let's not forget in here to set the temperature. Oops. Temperature and flame. Oh, and the velocity as well. So we do have velocity in here. and we want to set that also. Oh, we might want to also, we come here now. Now you can see that's kind of blocked out. That's because of the velocity. I want to turn on this velocity blur. I don't know if, let me just get rid of these a moment while we're working on this velocity blur. It should go a bit faster, hopefully. There we go. So I'm going to turn on this velocity blur and just change the direction. Will that do anything? There's kind of pointing. You can see that goes behind the actual geometry. See that? So it's kind of pushing it back that way. If I turn this off, you can see what that's doing. Stretching out just a little bit. And you can add to that with by extending the shutter. But I'm just going to leave that at the default of 0.5. And then add back it, with density. Okay, so that's everything, I believe. Let's just drop a null at the bottom. Call this out trail source. Is that what I called the other one? Can't spell. Source. Let me just double check. Tailed. Well, I called it density. We'll call it source. We got density and temperature and lots of other things. Call it source. I mean, yeah. Perfect. Okay, so that's ready to go into our sim.